This is kind of humorous, but I thought I'd pass this little thing on. It'll be fun to remember this years from now. Parts are hanging up by the heating vent that look like they're drying up beautifully. And the seat we did a little touch-up on, that's beautiful. And I'm trying to plan out, do my sequencing for the day. So I get up early, of course, thinking I'm going to have a lot of choices about what to do since I was out riding yesterday. Rode up to Luciano's yesterday to see the little cafe racer he's working on. And it's snowing. No snow in the forecast at all. It's snowing. The stuff we worked on yesterday just looks, if you could see this in real life, wow. This is, I don't know that you can make it a lot better than that. Oh, that just came out beautiful. And that's all the patience, all the work, all the sanding, all the touch-ups. That really is a nice finish. And because it's gotten unusually cold out there, it wasn't supposed to. It's supposed to be 40 today. Not 40 though. Boy, it dropped right down. I think I'm going to leave that up by the heating vent. I'm going to do a little experiment. I'm going to leave it up there for a couple of days and just let the heat cook the paint. Now, things I know in the summer, the paint will dry super fast. Sometimes too fast. You don't get a good bond. But in the winter you can take advantage of that, because by having it out in the garage for, well, let's say for 6-8 hours, the paint lays down really nice. And as you can see, that paint has laid down about as nice as you can. And then we're bringing it in by the heating vent. It's like when a body shop puts the car in the oven. So it looks like we might have the best of both worlds here. But an unexpected day like today, this is why I always have a list of things I can do out in the garage, things I can do when it's paintable, and without that list, this day a lot of people would be just not be able to get anything done. And I always really do feel good when I call it stealing a ride. It's like eating dessert first. Because this time of year, if you can get a ride, great. You get up in the morning, it snows. There's other projects to work on, and we have several. So out here in the tundra, and it's really cold out here this morning. Wow, checking out Steve's parts, make sure every day I look at it, it looks better than the day before. This is the only part of the job I'm not happy with, is that, and I know we'll come up with a joint decision on that, but let me just back this up just a little bit. When I originally started this restoration, had the vision for what I wanted to accomplish, well, one of the things was some lighting changes. Now, because the unique FZR scoops in the front, they lend themselves to having the blinkers right inside the scoops, and they're still far enough apart. They're actually far enough apart, they're almost like a GS. And I originally wanted to use the lights that I had inside the fairing as headlights, but then come up with some kind of a circuit that when I wanted to use them as blinkers, it would shut the headlight off and it would blink. Well, I bought some things from Pete that are supposed to do that, but they only work with LEDs apparently. I don't know for sure, and I don't know enough about electricity. In fact, to be honest, I hate electricity. This is the one part of restorations I don't enjoy. So I'm going to replace this whole unit with something different. And I'm in the middle of trying to get with John Pothier. He's the one who originally got me these very high intensity. I don't remember, they probably were expensive, but in this case I don't care. I only need 2 of them. But I need to have these with double circuits. And they are super bright. So if I find ones with a double circuit, I'll be able to accomplish what I wanted to very easily. And for almost no money, just the cost of the bulbs. So here's what the plan, one of the plans, when these are the blinkers that belong on the front of the R1. So what they are, if I turn the key on, they still have 2 circuits in them. I have a tail light, of course. Now when I hit the brake lights, they both come on. And I think, to me, that's a safety feature, especially some of these old geezers I ride with that are, and I'm one of them, by the way. But I like that. So that led me to think, well, I have these in the worst of all worlds. You know, I can do this same circuitry to the back of the And of course, I don't have an LED flasher, but I don't care. This is what I like, is when I hit the brakes on this bike, I like that. So that's one of the features I want to, at some point in time in this restoration, include in that, but I do need to get different blinkers. That's the problem right now. I don't have double circuit blinkers. Now, when I was doing some work on the Suzuki, John had told me about these real high intensity bulbs, these LEDs. And I replaced the taillight bulbs. And what I'm going to do as just a way to, because I don't have the other 2 circuit bulbs with me, I'll take these out, use them for test bulbs. And these are LEDs. And then what I'll do is, well, hopefully get another set from John, or even better, get something even more high intensity. But it's got to be a double circuit bulb that plugs into a standard socket. Now, what John did, and one of the things we were talking about, of course, he has the source for this, and we'll post that up for these bulbs. One of the things he did with his Corvette, he replaced all the bulbs with LEDs. One of the advantages of that is they'll probably in our lifetime never burn out, and they use a little less juice, but to me that's not really a factor. Just the fact that they're brighter. So again, part of this, these are the R1, the blinkers that come with the bike, and which I've never used. And the sad thing about this is, what's nice is they're rubber mounted, but they only have the single circuit, so I'm going to have to think about coming up with some double circuit replacement blinkers. But I want to tell you a quick story about blinkers. This is really a funny thing. Not really funny, but it's true. So I have blinkers on this bike that are built into the fairing, but at one point in time I had very tiny ones on the back. I had these little baby LED ones. And what happened is Luciano and I were doing a sporting ride, and I put the blinker on for a left-hand turn. He didn't see the blinker, and he pretty much scared me half to death. So from that day I went home and I put these blinkers on. They're a lot brighter, and they're further apart. He had, well, I have, he had these. I threw those things over the fence, and this I just count as a giant safety thing, especially if you're going to ride with a group of people. And one of the things that was sad is I have the original headlights that came with the R1 that I've since not used. And when I molded up the scoops, of course I took these, they're big, and they're pretty high tech. I think they are LEDs, but they're too physically big to fit inside the fairing, or I could have somehow maybe used them. But these little guys that John Pathia found, boy, they are, and we will get the information on a future video. I just want to do some basic testing today while we have this little light snow falling. And just one other thing I want to mention, worth mentioning. When I was doing the RD, I did not know about the LEDs, but I saw an advertisement on TV for some kind of bulbs that were supposed to be twice as bright, regular bulbs. You could buy them at AutoZone and Pep Boys. I went down and spent 20 bucks, and they were no brighter than the ones that came on the bike. So these ones John found, they seem to be the best. And just for reference sake, they're pretty high intensity bulbs, and they're from AutoZone, and they're about 20 bucks a pair, and they definitely do work okay. And these are 3 years old already and never burned out or anything. So this is just one part of the restoration that I want to make sure I get right. It's a good way to use up a crappy day, and to let the paint that we sprayed paint the other day, let that harden and dry another day. Every time we let the paint harden and dry, it's in our favor. So from my parts cabinet, I dug out 2 bags of lights and bulbs and blinkers and tail lights and stuff, and I want to see what I can come up with here. So as everybody who has ever been to my shop or has ever hung out here knows, I am a shit saver. I save every tail light from every bike. Look at the bikes I don't even have anymore. Look at this, a GS tail light. But somewhere in this pile of stuff is going to be exactly what I need. The good news is it'll be free. Something we all like. Now some of these, this is not funny. I wanted to share my philosophy here. My philosophy, as always, these little blinkers that I had used before. I'm always prone to have a problem that I have, and I overthink it. I make it more complicated than it has to be. And I wanted to show, wait, before we even start, because I had an original thing. I was going to try to use the lights that were on the bike, or the R1 lights, which are really expensive. I think they're $300, but I'm not sure. They're really high intensity, high-tech bulbs. Now, and I overthought the whole problem into how I was going to do it, when in reality, those little LEDs to me are going to be the exact answer I need. Beginning of the restoration, before I had thought this all the way through, I was at Pete's at Circle Cycle. He sold me these. They were not that expensive, $6, $7 each, and I'll use them on another project. But they're definitely, they're making it more complicated than it has to be. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to hang on to these, or maybe Turbo Steve or somebody will want to make these, or maybe I can use these somehow on another project. But this is made for an LED array, and I don't know, the wires look so thin, I'm not sure I want to run a regular bulb through that. It just doesn't look like something that's... In the very beginning, I was looking for an answer, and then what I found out is this is not the answer for me. I always try, Holcomb's razor, always try to keep it simple. So by laying all the parts out from my junk inventory and my shit saver inventory here, now I have an idea of what I already have to work with. Of course, if you're not a shit saver, right now you got to go to AutoZone or somewhere and buy. I like having it right in my house here. Anyway, we do have some double circuits. I can tell by the way there's 2 wires going to each bulb. It looks like this is an old FZR taillight. And the Suzuki one only has, well no, it has 2 bulbs, I'm wrong. It only has one with 2 bulbs, so it's possible this will be the, and I'm looking for, keep it simple. I'm not looking to cut up any more hardware than I have to. I think I can get everything so far that I want out of this. This is an original, this is the one that comes with the bike, I think. That's an FZR taillight. So this is the original 10-year-old battery that came with the R1. Now, I replaced it. Of course, I wrote what year it was. The thing that I did, I upgraded many of the bikes to lithium-ion batteries, and of course, this weighs about 10 pounds or something. It's crazy. And I saved this. This actually was still a serviceable battery. In fact, it still is. And I did a cool thing that I thought was very cool at the time. I put this charging connector on. Now, the reason I have this, so I can check my electric jacket and any electric accessories I have. And this allows me not to go out into the cold tundra. I can do it right here, and I can charge it because my chargers all have this connector. So I try to keep it charged, as you can see, once every month or so, because I use it for stuff just like what I'm going to use it today. I don't have to be outside by the motorcycle. I can be in here and do my testing. Now, because when I'm doing a restoration, probably electricity is the least fun for me anyway. I love doing sandpaper. I like doing mechanical stuff. But I really don't like doing electricity. Now, luckily we have friends like Vince and Luciano that seem pretty competent at this. I don't pretend to be competent. In fact, I usually, by the end of the day, I'm getting frustrated. But anyway, these are a couple of things that always make it reasonable. The battery, a spare battery. Everybody, when the battery will not start your bike, you could still use it for this. Just keep it charged. This is what I found, and I'm going to share a couple of the little tips. They're going to make this job a little bit easier. I have a nice long set of jumper cables with an alligator clip on each end. And each end, one is marked with red. That's, of course, positive. We don't need that right now. We're not going to diagnose electric jackets. I don't want these to touch while I'm working. But what I'll do is, for the purposes of what I'm doing, I'll hook these up to the battery. And now, get that out of the way. Now take anything, you can do this. Oh yeah, that'll work. I got to peel the wire back on this and just see what I got here. Make sure these two, I don't have any, well, they should be perfect, in fact. But it looks like I may be in luck here. These things will snap right out. Wow, I didn't know that until now. Wow, is that fun? How much fun is that? Oh, I'll save that for whatever reason. But basically now the hardest part is to locate and find, and we're going to share that information. John is going to, I hope, be able to find it, you know, relatively quickly. The last time I remember, they shipped them relatively quickly. I always have a pair of wire strippers. I want to just do, you need a few little tools to do this realistically. And this is a double circuit bulb, so I'm keep it simple. That's always a good thing. But again, don't ever ask me electrical questions, because maybe these are even bulbs that are usable. But what I need to do, this is the ground. Black is always the ground. What I need to do is just find out. Okay, that's the blue is the low end circuit. That's the circuit we want for blinkers and for headlights, or maybe the opposite. I don't know. We can certainly make it that we can do it either way. But these are not the bulbs we're going to use anyway. But anyway, so okay, that one works. I want to do the same thing to this one. Make sure we have two usable things before we go to the next step. Now, I always learned a lesson that I thought was valuable, worth passing on. Anytime I work on electrical stuff, every time I make a change or do something, I check that I haven't screwed it up. Because what'll happen if something gets crisscrossed, something gets disconnected, I want to start with two that I know these are now usable and they'll be part of my project. Now I have to make sure, just make sure these are going to fit, and they will be fine. That won't be a problem at all. So what I need to do now, I need to make well, what amounts to be, it's going to look like a bracket for the opening here, and with this recess, so I can take this and just do that and unplug the socket. So I'm not sure what material is going to be appropriate here, but let me see what I can come up with. You know, what makes that, I think, kind of a neat little touch is you don't even see it until you turn the headlights on. I think that is just so cool. So now I got to figure out how I want to fabricate this, and it shouldn't be a really big deal, but I'd like to do it nice. I have plenty of time today to do it. So before I made this too complicated, this really blew me away. The guy that had the bike before me looks like he epoxied the taillight lens on. There's no way you can get it off, even with the little tangs. So what I thought, no big deal. I took a hacksaw and just cut it. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to just salvage this area so that I could plug these bulbs in conveniently without taking a fairing off. And I thought maybe I could use that mounting bracket. I don't know. So I'm going to have to, with a Dremel tool, trim some of this away. But I think this will work. In the worst of all worlds, I'll have to make some kind of bracket. The whole idea here, keep it simple. So what happened, I started with this piece and just hacksawed off and Dremel tool and ground off with the grinder, because this has got to fit right into that slot. So I don't know how much extra material I'm going to have here, if any. But just being able to go in there and take that bulb out, boy, will that be nice. In fact, I'm looking at this and I probably could JB weld this right into the fairing. Well, we're going to see. I started off thinking I was going to use a piece of aluminum to make a bracket. I abandoned that right away when I saw how easy this was to cut. A lot easier to cut this. Oh man, did that work out great. Now, the only thing, I'm not going to install these at this time till I get the bulbs, because I can push them further into the scoop if the bulbs are shorter. Put it back, but once I have the bulbs, I'll leave some clearance. Boy, that couldn't have been, and it's keep it simple stupid. And I just need to put some JB Weld up there, piece of fiberglass cloth, once I have this located, and I'll be able to take the bulbs out through the back. Boy, that is a wow. Even I'm impressed with that. Hope John Pothy is impressed. So now to turn that part, this part, which we had for free, that's why I never throw all this stuff away. I can do this off camera, just make another copy of this. I'll have one for each side, and we're going to look into and for sure get the information on these high intensity bulbs. This really surprised me how easy this worked out. So it's also given me a little chance to organize my collection of blinkers and things. And boy, if there ever was a thing that these little blinkers, they're very cute and they are high intensity. They do, but boy, oh boy, the day somebody doesn't see them, I don't know. But anyway, I do have some big ones, and we're going to be, this is not the last restoration. In fact, I'm already planning something for the future. But, cannot let the cat out of the bag right now. I can't believe how good this worked out. I'm going to take some 180 sandpaper and just roughen this up, and I'll have to remove the paint where this is getting epoxied in, but every so often you catch a break. This looks like, this is something I've been thinking about for months, how I wanted to do this, and it was getting complicated in my mind, and the answer was in that bag all along. And so I really think now, the thing that's going to be important now is to get the bulbs ordered, because it does take a while. They come from, who the hell knows, from Singapore or something. But we did have, John has them in his vet. I have them in several of the bikes, and they are definitely worth it. And as I'm getting older and older, and after that incident with Luciano, and of course it's not his fault, it's my fault for having a little baby blinkers. This was a really good solution. Now once this is epoxied in, actually it goes that way, I'm just thinking I'll be able to, in my wildest dream here, maybe it goes both ways and I don't even know it. No, it only goes one way, it goes that way. I got to keep that in mind. Okay, and that is, I think that's an elegant solution to a really perplexing problem. And the last decision, I think the bulbs, if I remember right, they were not as big diameter. If they are not that big, I can push them down into the scoop a little more. And if I see the light coming inside the fairing, I can make a little cover for this out of carbon fiber. And that bolt will just get epoxied right in place. Oh boy, that is, I'm amazed. That is probably the last time I'll catch a break on this project. That worked out great. I just thought I'd share one little thing because, before I end the video, a couple of things that have made this, even with my very low skill of dealing with electricity, have made it, and they're all from Harbor Freight. The wire strippers, a circuit tester, an old battery, and if you have electric gear, one of these connectors. And by the way, these connectors, I have found over the years, having electric stuff for over 10 years, these connectors fail regularly. They're terrible. And that's the only weak thing of those Tourmaster jackets. Now what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to add extended wires, but I want to make this, of course, that I don't want to take the fairing off the bike every time I have to either change the bulb or whatever. So I'm going to try to figure out a way of, if I have that fairing mounted, that I can get in there and change the bulb. I'm not going to solder the wires up because I don't know how that's going to play out, or if I want to leave the wires on and have the connector somewhere else. But these are the things that made it easy for me. All Harbor Freight stuff. Shrink rack tubing. I save all the connectors from all the bikes that I've ever worked on. These are just a couple things. A real inexpensive test wire, and this I hardly ever use anyway, because usually at the level I need that, I have Luciano or Vince or somebody's help. Now, I'll save these because I don't know if we're going to ever use them, but it'll be for a future project. But And then the little wire taps that I had, and I bought these specifically for doing the radar detector, which is now part of my riding life. But the point is, and having it all in little sandwich bags, it makes doing a job like this relatively easy. And believe me, I am thrilled with that solution. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and closing in on this little, the way this played out exceeded my wildest expectations. And maybe it's information you can use. Well, again, thanks for watching.